Hello, and welcome to the Georgia State Capitol. Today we are going to talk about how laws are made. To review how lawmakers are selected in Georgia, feel free to watch our video on the legislative branch. Legislators in Georgia only work for a portion of the year. The time that our legislators are working to create laws is called session. Let's start with what happens during session. All laws start as ideas. We usually think of laws as coming from government officials or lawmakers, but anyone can come up with an idea for a law. Once someone has an idea for a law, this idea needs to find a sponsor. A sponsor is someone who represents the idea for a law to the floor of the House or Senate in the form of a bill. A sponsor must be a member of either the House or Senate to present the bill. A bill can originate in either the House of Representatives or the Senate. But for simplicity's sake, we will talk about what happens when a bill starts in the House of Representatives. After a bill is sponsored, each bill is assigned to a committee. A committee is a smaller group of representatives or senators, sometimes both, who review, research, and discuss bills. At this point, if a majority in the committee, more than half, say no to the bill, it can die. Here we use the word die to mean that the bill does not become a law. The committee can also approve the bill as is or vote to make changes. Once the bill is out of committee, it goes to the floor of whichever chamber it originated in this case, the House. Once the bill is on the floor, members of the House get to hear presentations on it and can ask their questions and voice their concerns. When we talk about floors of legislature, we really just mean all legislators present at that time the bill is being voted on or discussed. Eventually, the floor will vote on the bill. If the majority in the House says yes, the bill goes to the other legislative chamber, in this case, the Senate, and the process starts all over again. If the Senate makes any changes to the bill while it is in committee, the bill has to go back to the House for approval. A quick side here. Because bills can go back and forth so many times, one bill can have hundreds of different versions. Without someone to keep track of all these changes, it would be utter chaos during session. Papers would be everywhere, people would be crying, fainting, and running for their lives. Luckily, we have the Clerk of the House and Secretary of the Senate. These offices are charged with keeping track of all versions of all bills that go through the legislature. They even have records of bills that died long ago. A good way to keep track of a bill's history is to look through the records of either of these offices. They are open to the public and staffed with very helpful people. Now, back to the lawmaking process. At this point, the odds are stacked against the bill becoming a law. The bill cannot become a law until both chambers agree, and this process can take quite a while. If the chambers are unable to agree on the bill before sessions ends, the bill dies. If the Senate's committee or floor vote no, the bill also dies. If the House of Representatives decide they don't like the changes the Senate made to the bill, they can vote against it and the bill can die. If everything goes well and both chambers of the legislature agree to the same version of the bill, then it finally goes to the governor for approval. The governor has three options in how he can respond to the bill. 1. He can sign the bill and turn it into a law. 2. He can veto the bill. 3. He can leave the bill on his desk. If he does this for long enough, then after the legislative session ends, the bill automatically becomes a law. If the governor vetoes a bill, the General Assembly can override the veto. In Georgia, they need a two-thirds majority of the total membership of each chamber. If the legislator and governor both approve a law, but the citizens believe it violates a constitutional amendment, citizens can use the third branch of government to balance out the roles of the other two in lawmaking. The judicial branch consists of the state's courts. They are responsible for settling personal disputes, sentencing people who have violated the law, and settling disputes between the people and their government over whether a law agrees with the state constitution. For example, the Georgia state constitution guarantees citizens the right to hunt and fish. If the legislator and governor passed a law that prohibited hunting and fishing, the citizens could go to court. They would have to start with the lower courts and work their way up to the state Supreme Court, where the 9 justices will review the case and decide whether or not the law agrees with the Constitution. If the law is ruled unconstitutional, it is no longer a law. This is a very long and difficult process, so it does not happen often. I hope you've learned a lot from us about how laws are made in the state of Georgia. Remember that you too can be a part of our lawmaking process. Just check out our description for links to the directories of the House of Senate to find your legislator and get involved. As always, our sources can be found in the description box. Thank you for joining us.